Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all of you for being here today. I think both Republicans and Democrats would agree that we need to penalize bad actors and bad actions. But what I am concerned about today and also in the media is that the sole focus has been on the relatively small number of bad actors and bad actions. We heard it from our Chairman Nadler at his beginning statement. He listed a whole bunch of instances that were not a good outcome, and then we see on the screens all day today as we're talking just that. But how about all of the good things that law enforcement has done? I really think we need to focus on that too. And because of that, I want to give you some examples of good things that have happened just recently that law enforcement has done in Arizona. On August 26, first responders in Arizona, including the Arizona Department of Public Safety, rescued an 8-year-old girl who had fallen about 75 feet into Oak Creek Canyon in Arizona. On August 23rd, Arizona police officers rescued a baby left in a car in 100-degree heat for nearly an hour, and she survived. On August 6th, Tucson police officer spotted a kitten locked inside a car in Midtown parking lot on Saturday and rescued it. On July 11th, there was a fire at Mesa, Arizona apartment complex where officers bravely placed themselves in harm's way to rescue a family. In Phoenix, just the other day, there was a severe traffic collision where one of the motorists unfortunately lost his leg. Due to the quick thinking of the police officers who were first to arrive prior to medical units, his life was preserved by the makeshift tourniquet that was applied. And one of the things that the Phoenix Police is doing now is they have their newest unit on the force is an ice cream truck. And they're using it in lower socioeconomic neighborhoods where they're concerned that there's a bad feeling about police officers, and so they're trying to mitigate it. Yesterday afternoon, a suspect entered a store full of customers and robbed the store at knife point. Then he fled the store, he carjacked another victim at knife point, and was arrested. You know, I'm just saying, we need to take care of bad actors, but let's not forget that our law enforcement are doing so many great things each and every day, so many heroic things, and I want to thank them for what they do. And I have a question for Mr. Yost. Previously, in previous testimony, one of the witnesses suggested that we support a bill that would prohibit chokeholds. And I just want your professional advice on that. If we prohibited chokeholds, would it then lead to not having an option on the table and you'd actually have to use lethal force more?
Well, it's a very complicated and fluid question asking for an outcome that's very much unpredictable. There's an escalation. The escalation causes actions, and it progresses up. At some point, there becomes an issue of whether or not what is necessary in order to maintain or to not lose control of a situation. So it's a very, very fluid concern. It's not an easy answer. And I'm not too sure I can answer that. I can just tell you that every time that we find ourselves in a situation where it escalates to a point where it becomes some physical altercation, then I think the outcomes are always going to be different.
And Mr. Yost, this has been touched on a little bit, but do you think all of this publicity and focus on negative actors actually hurts the morale of the law enforcement and causes problems with retention and hiring law enforcement officers? No,
ma'am, I don't think so. I know so. I think we're in a point now where it is easy to demonize law enforcement. Often it's done without knowing all of the facts. We're a nation of laws, and those laws have due process, and we're quick to rush to judgment on making assertions on what's happening, and I think it's creating an atmosphere in this country that is making it very difficult for law enforcement officers to do their job. We were once very respected. Now, as you mentioned, there are incidents that we certainly should be reviewed and handled, but it doesn't reflect on every law enforcement officer. But every law enforcement officer is taking a burden for it.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, I'd like to yield any time I had left to Mr. Gates.